Welcome into the Hustle Show podcast here, presented by Wager Talk. Mark Zinno sitting in for Drew Martin, who would normally tell you, welcome in to the Hustle Show podcast, alongside Adam Trigger, Bryan Power. And he is back, folks. He is back. Chris Thurston, CT Bets, back in the house. And we would be remiss if we didn't start with you. But first, I want to remind you guys that the Hustle Show is brought to you by Viva Tequila Seltzer. It's a refreshing and drinkable hard seltzer, 88 calories, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, 4.5 ABV. Viva is the perfect drink for your post-game celebrations, as it was created with the active lifestyle in mind. We flavored our tequila seltzer because flavor is the spice of life, and we like our drinks with a kick just as we like our lives. Our flavors are paired perfectly with our artisanal Blanco tequila for our subtle and refreshing drinks. Our belief: live long, live well, and live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. You can purchase Viva right now on the website, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Use code HUSTLE20 for 20% off. In fact, I just used it this week for a big golf outing I have coming up here and sent it all the way to Tejas, CT. But Hustle20 is the code you use at vivatequilaseltzer.com. Gentlemen, with you guys as always, I have to start with you, CT, because it's good to have you back in the saddle, my man.
Yeah, boys, it's good to be back. It's been a few weeks, and I was out watching the Boston Bruins for the past couple of weeks live in person, and we all know how that went. Transparency is key. I'll be honest. I closed out the season great with college hoops, and it's been terrible since, to be honest with you. Hockey, I usually have a really good run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's been terrible. Hoping to turn that around here. But it's good to be back with you guys. BP, always glad to see your face, and I'm ready to rock and roll. I think I got a couple of winners tonight, Zinno, that I'm going to rip off.
All right, well, let's do it. Speaking of BP, the one and only Bryan Power, you can see him and hear him right on Wager Talk. BP, welcome in, man. Good to be with you. You and I have started a very habitual habit of these morning phone calls to discuss NBA. And listen, when I know I'm on the same page with you, it makes my heart flutter.
Oh, wow. Well, if only those phone calls would make my wife's heart flutter. She keeps saying, who is this man who is calling you to celebrate these games late at night? I mean, my wife, it'd be incredible. Our house could be on fire. I'd receive a text, house on fire. There would not even be a flame emoji, I don't even think, accompanied with it. But, Mark, always great to talk to you. Great to have CT back. Always great to be on the air with Trig. And, what day is today? Wednesday? Yeah, sure it is. Off to a bit of a slower start for me. I assume I'm the only person on the pod who had Sassuolo in the afternoon, a little Serie A action. Last time I was on this podcast, I got a stoppage time goal right as we were going on the air in my favor. It was great. So I logged on just as stoppage time was starting today over in Italy. The goal went against me. So I'm 0-1 to start Wednesday, but it's been a great week run. 16-8 the last 7 days. That's 67% if my math is correct.
Well, BP has a lot of balls, soccer balls, that is. We saved the very best for last because he is the best and the longest. It is Adam Trigger. Trig, always good to be with you, my man.
What's up, Mark? Yeah, no, I'm kind of the opposite. I had a nice win this afternoon, so I'm coming in the show, which it's just last week I was coming in all miserable. I was on a total that was an over 8. I had one run, and they were playing with a medicine ball, I think. There was just zero chance of that game going over. So, now I get to come into this show. I had Tigers plus 1.5 this afternoon. They actually scored late to win the game, but they were never trailing by more than a run. So feel good about that, and hopefully we'll find some winners for tonight to round out the day.
All right, well, let's get to it here on the Hustle Show with Big Game Breakdown, CT Bets. We have to turn to you to lead it off, man.
Yeah, sure, Zeno, and we talked a little bit about this backstage here. I'm going to do a little something different here. I am going to talk about the Celtics-Sixers Game 2 tonight in Boston. I am playing the double result. So I am playing the Celtics to win Game 2, which is tonight, and also win the series. Shop around here. I'll get to my analysis in a second here. This was this morning. My good friend Julian Edlow from DraftKings and I were talking about this. We played this minus 105 this morning. It's been bet up to minus 140 currently, and I still like that price, And, like we talked about here, the sky is literally falling in Boston. The Bruins, they're out of the playoffs. Celtics, they dropped Game 1 of the series Monday night. It's been 2 weeks since a Boston team has won a game at the Garden. 0 for their last 6. which is wild when you think about it with the regular seasons that the Boston Bruins and the Boston Celtics have had. But I honestly, I think that changes tonight. The C's absolutely have a problem with blowing late leads at home. There's no doubt about that. They have consistently they bounced back with convincing performances. The following game, the C's have been great the last two postseasons off a loss. I think they're 9-2 following the loss the next game here. And recent NBA history tells us the C's should respond in this game as well. The last 14 teams, to lose a game as a double-digit favorite in the postseason, they've gone 13-1 the following game. So I don't think that changes tonight. I think that trend goes to 14-1. Yeah, the defense, it's been terrible lately for the Celtics. I think they're going to wake up tonight and almost – I don't like using the term must-win game because – it's a 7, you have to win 4 games here, right? So we saw the New York Rangers go down 2-0 to the Devils. Yeah, game 2 wasn't a must win for the Devils. They ended up winning the series here. I hate using that term. I'll use the term almost must win here before heading to Philly. The Celtics are 27-17 on the road so far this season, including the postseason. They're going to get a win down in Philly. The Celtics will win tonight with or without Embiid. I think if Embiid plays, he's very hobbled and doesn't play well at all. And I think if he's out, the Celtics will make adjustments and play a lot better, especially in the second half tonight. They get the win tonight. They win the series. The double result is my big game breakdown here. Shop around -140 is the best I currently see on DraftKings.
No, and I agree with you, CT. I mean, there's a lot to that. And BP and I were talking earlier today just simply about how, remember, there's this trend in the NBA postseason that the winner of the game usually covers the game, meaning the dog wins outright or the spread is typically covered, despite the fact that this is a big number. And I'm not really comfortable laying all 8.5 points, wherever it is now. I mean, it was up as high as 10 this morning, and it's floated back around. But I expect Boston to have a big bounce-back game as well. I'm with you from that standpoint. And I think that BP and I always look to the under, and we were talking about how the under actually benefits Boston because that means Philadelphia is not scoring, right? Like if you do the math and compute this whole thing out, I think Boston wants to win like a 113-98 kind of game. Like that's where they really want to be for the whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I do agree with you that they bounce back. By the way, I want to remind you guys, drop some comments in the comment box below on our Wager Talk YouTube channel. Smash that like button as well. Subscribe to the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Check out all the shows that we have going on here. As we move from Chris Thurston, CT Bets over to BP, I know you're going NBA as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something about that Boston-Philadelphia series as well. You look at the numbers and what did Philadelphia, how did they benefit in game 1? They attempted 14 more shots than Boston. And we were talking, they're not a great rebounding team. So how did they do it? Boston was careless with the basketball. They turned it over 16 times, and that led to, the 14. I mean, if you're taking 14 more shots than your opponent, you're probably winning. And the key was they attempted 12 more threes than Boston did. They hit 7 more. I don't think Philadelphia is going 17 of 38 from 3 again in this game. And obviously the key with or without Embiid, even if he does play, like CT mentioned, he's hobbled. Boston had a lot of success attacking the rim, going inside. And obviously Embiid is that presence. So if he's not in there at all or hobbled, I think they can have success there. And if you take away the sloppy, play with the ball, Boston, I think, should be all right here tonight, game 2. Do I want to lay the points? Not really, but I do think they bounce back with a victory. Now, I'm looking ahead to tomorrow, guys, and game 2 of Lakers-Warriors, where the home team will be looking to bounce back from a loss, just as Boston is tonight. And as much as I like the NBA guys and was very excited about this series, I was glad I fell asleep before the end of the game last night because I was on the under. That the whole time looked like a just stone cold loser. So I'm like, this has no chance. Hit the, I'll wake up early. I get a text from Zinno, of all people, of course. I look and he's like, well, you should be glad you didn't stay up. I said, well, what does this mean? Hit the ESPN app, see the last play. I'm like, oh my God, they were at 227. Golden State, of course, misses the shot. Late free throws, send it over. in the closing seconds. So that was no good. Glad I fell asleep and didn't watch that live. But it's not an official release yet, guys, but I am leaning towards the under in game 2 for all the reasons I played it in game 1. The Warriors basically allow 10 fewer points per game at home than on the road. That's why the under's 10-5-1 their last 16 home games. The Lakers are not a dynamic offensive team by any stretch either. 2 of the 3 games in Memphis in round 1, they did not break 100 points. 3-point shooting was a major problem for the Lakers in the first round. And guess what? Last night, they were 6 of 25, 24% from 3-point range. So there was no improvement there. What did they do well inside the arc? 37 of 67, 55%. I don't think we see that again in game 2 from the Los Angeles Lakers, a team who only one postseason game, guys, has seen more than 229 points scored. That was game 1 against Memphis. And at the other end of the floor, the Lakers, since the trade deadline, we know this, one of the best defensive efficiency ratings in the league. They held Golden State to 22 of 53 from 2-point range inside the arc in game 1. My only concern with this under and why I haven't played it, I'm still looking, breaking it down. The Warriors only attempted 6 free throws in game 1. That is not a lot. But as I break this one down, look ahead to tomorrow, guys. My initial lean is towards the under here on game 2 of Lakers-Warriors.
Good stuff there, BP. Let's turn it over to Adam Trigger for his big game breakdown.
Thanks, Mark. So I want to talk real quick, just circle back with some of the futures I played before the season. It's gonna segue into the big game breakdown and maybe a potential future bet if you want to jump in now. So, we talk about transparency on this program. Diamondbacks, I'll talk about that one for a lot of the year. I think that season win total is probably going to go over, which was my biggest one prior to the year. But your boy has the Cardinals and the White Sox. I'm probably going to be wrong on those. I think it's safe to say that those were not great bets. Now, I also have the Blue Jays to win the AL and the World Series. I think the Blue Jays could be in the mix. And the final team that I added was the Mariners to win the AL West, to win the American League, to win the World Series. And that's the team I want to talk about today because the Mariners are the team that had a poor start of the team, of the teams that I was really high on coming into the season that I really think could pan out to be what I expected them to be. And it's the game I want to talk about tonight. So we have Mariners-A's tonight, second game out in Oakland. Last night, phenomenal game. It was one of the later ones up. You stayed up late. You were treated to a pitcher's duel by 2 rookies who both had no hitters going into like the 7th inning. And then the Mariners come from behind after going down 1-0 bottom of the 7th, come from behind, win it 2-1. And I'll go back to Sunday, Mark. That extra inning win for the Mariners over the Blue Jays was my sort of like buy sign that the Mariners might be a team that we want to start backing. And they could rattle off quite a few in a row, in my opinion. They were hit with starting pitching injuries right out of the gate. Robbie Ray, right, like second day of the season, right? Like he goes down, caused them to have to move. They had to move Chris Flexen from his long relief role into the rotation. I think Munoz out in the bullpen. They cut one of their like high leverage relief arms, went down shortly after that. So they've kind of had like guys in weird spots when it comes to, what their typical role is in the pitching staff. And in spite of that, their bullpen has still been top 10 all year. And the most interesting stat that I dug up in regards to this Mariners team is they're the only team right now in Major League Baseball with a losing record, but a plus run differential. Only team in MLB right now that has a losing record, but has a positive run differential. And that to me, Mark, says that team's probably going to have a winning record sooner than later, because of course, baseball's a 6-month season. It's May 3rd. So we've played 1 month of a 6-month season. And I think right around now is the time where the masses start to buy into the sample size that's still, in my opinion, very small. I'm not ready to give up on the Cardinals yet, as ridiculously bad as they've looked. I might give up on the White Sox, but the point is we're at May 3rd. Like, even these teams that have gotten off to a poor start could be pretty legitimate contenders by the All-Star break. And there's teams that have come out red hot that might be nowhere close by the All-Star break. The Mariners, in my opinion, they're a team I want to buy going forward, and I would start buying them as soon as tonight. Even at minus 170, I think the Mariners are actually undervalued in this game. I think that this line should probably be closer to minus 230, minus 240. The A's, they're a team that I've made a case for the A's a couple of times, but I'll make a case for the A's like I did over the weekend when they're playing the Reds at home, a Reds team that's 2-9 on the road and is just about as inept as they are. Here, they're playing a Mariners team that I consider to still be a contender in the American League. And if you want to give me Logan Gilbert at minus 170, and I really think his shoulder issue is probably past him at this point, because I don't think the Mariners would risk injuring him, knowing like how big he is to this team and the fact that they've already had some starting pitching injuries. They wouldn't put Gilbert out and put him out in this game if the shoulder was going to be a consistent thing. I think the rain hurt him last week more than it was like a shoulder thing. Like he got pushed back a day and pitched in a downpour in Philly. So it wasn't his best start. And, I think he gave up 4 runs, a couple long balls. And it was a game that he actually was in line to win until the Mariners blew it late. So I like Gilbert. I'm willing to go against JP Sears. He's not bad, but he's not better than Logan Gilbert, in my opinion. And I think the Mariners are only going to get better in the the bullpen department, because now you've got guys actually giving them quality starts that's going to allow them to have their high leverage relievers in position. They can flex them back to the bullpen, or whoever they want to put in that long relief role. They have options. They lacked options in that area for a while, and they still managed to be a top 10 bullpen. I think the Mariners are really good. The A's will be undervalued at points in time, but right now they should be they should be a far bigger dog in this game, in my opinion. So I think if you want late action tonight and you can stomach a little juice, I have absolutely no problem with Mariners minus 170. I think it's a pretty good bet.
Great stuff from Adam Trigger there. Comments in the chat box. Thanks to Ghosted, who was asking, is the sky falling, is Zinno wearing sleeves on his shirt? The answer is no. I'm not wearing sleeves on my shirt. Okay. Sleeves are optional on the Hustle Show. Winners are not. Okay. Sleeves are always optional in my world. So appreciate you guys dropping the comments in there. It is the Hustle Show, brought to you by Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com, as we move forward to our best bets of the night. Let me start first. I'll get mine in here because we're going to the NBA. And BP and I talked this morning and sort of arrived at this handicap together. So I want to give him a little bit of credit, but go back to game 1 of this series. And this is still flabbergasting. Boston shot nearly 59% from the field in a game and lost. Wrap your head around that concept. They shot 59% from the field and lost a bat. I don't think their defense is going to have 2 of those games and end up getting got. Now, the big thing for Boston is they have been starting very, very fast here. They're shooting the ball very well. They're shooting 52% from the field for these playoffs, over 40% from deep. They're averaging 66 points per game in the first half. And you're looking at a first half total here that is sitting at 57.5, 58.5 in that range. I think the easiest play, because I don't want to lay the 8. We talked about a full game total and a first half total. For Boston, if it's at 57.5, 58.5, you give me a 35-point first quarter and a 25-point second quarter, I'm home, right? Like, this is a team that's not – Philadelphia, even with Embiid, they're better defensively, but I don't know if all of a sudden Boston's shooting is just going to fall off. That's the only reason that they don't get to 60 in this first half, is because their shooting just falls apart. I think Boston wants to start fast. I think they need to start fast. If they're going to answer here and get the crowd in the game, they are going to need to score early. I mean, it's 5.5 in the first half. I lean on laying it with them. If you don't want to lay the 8.5 for the full game, I would lean the 5.5 for the first half. But official best bet here, guys, is Boston over 57.5 in the first half tonight between Boston and Philadelphia. And I would add one more thing, too. Whether you're looking at, the Boston full spread, like, I have a hard time believing game script-wise that Boston is going to be in a one-possession game at half and all of a sudden pull away. You would need one of those stretches like we saw from the Lakers last night for their final 4.5 minutes they didn't score a single point. Like, that's the way they would end up covering. And you just can't bank on that happening. Like, it's not a handicap to say, well, I expect them not to score for 4 minutes straight. No, those are more the rarities than the norm. So if Boston is going to cover this big number, and it looks like people think that they are, according to where the money is, if you look at the Wager Talk odds screen, I would tell you they need to get out to a big lead in the first half, and they have to do that by scoring. So we'll play it safe. Over 57.5 first half for the Boston Celtics tonight. Zinno, best bet. CT Bets, your best bet of the night.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to head out west here, and I'm going to the ice here, and that's the Oilers versus the Vegas Knights, game 1 here. And let's start with the Oilers. They finished the regular season just 2 points behind Vegas. That was a grind for both teams to get the top spot in the Pacific. They did take 3 of 4 games from the Knights in the regular season, although 2 of those games went to overtime in the 4 they played. 3 games in the series were also decided by 1 goal. So it was very close in the regular season between these 2 teams. Oilers, they come in finishing off the Kings in 6, right? They scored plenty of goals in the process. We saw McDavid, Draisaitl, they've been nothing but superb for this Oilers team here. The defense, though, it's been shaky at times for the Oil. I think that's really important to point out. They give up a lot of easy goals. They get very lackadaisical on the defensive side of the puck here. On the other side, the Golden Knights, they lose game 1 of the series. That was a game that you and I had pegged. We loved the Knights in game 1. And of course, then they rip off 4 straight to say goodbye to them. We both did have them in the series, so that was nice. But after scoring just 1 goal in game 1, the Golden Knights scored 18 in 4 games to go on and win that series in 5. The offense has really turned it up for Vegas after game 1 versus the Jets, getting Mark Stone back from missing. He missed a chunk of games in the regular season, has been absolutely massive for this Knights team. Chanley Stevenson, he's had a great series versus the Jets. Things really seem to be clicking for this Knights team. I want to talk about Bruce Cassidy. What could I say about him, right? You guys know I'm a diehard Bruins fan. I loved him as a coach here in Boston. Everybody said he was too tough on the guys up here and they couldn't handle it. Well, look who's laughing now. Cassidy might be the happiest man on planet Earth right now after the Bruins just lose Game 7 on Sunday. Cassidy's still alive. Bruins are gone. He's got the Knights kind of firing all cylinders right now. And now you get 2 well-rested teams. They face off for a chance to go to the Western Conference Finals. I'm going to take my chances here. In my opinion, the better of the 2 goalies here with Brossoit. He's been stellar since game 1. I think the place is going to be rocking tonight in Vegas. Yes, the Oilers can score, and they will score. I just think the defensive play with the Knights is much better, and I like them as home dogs tonight to get the win in game 1. Play on the Vegas Knights tonight. Best bet for CT. Plus 109 is the best number that I found out there right now.
Great stuff. CT Sirens in full effect as always, and we'll turn it over to Bryan Power for his best bet of the night.
Yeah, all right. Trig mentioned Tigers and Mets. They are playing a doubleheader today, and the Tigers won the first game. This is a client play. I didn't care who won the first game because I'm on the second game, and I'm laying the 1.5 with the Mets, which is only minus 125. In game 2, the Mets will be welcoming Max Scherzer back onto the field. He was, of course, suspended for the foreign substance rule. We don't judge here. That's okay. He's back. We'll take him. I don't care. And he was a bit banged up, too, with the shoulder injury. So the time off probably did him some good, right? So there you go. And he knows Comerica Park well. He obviously was a member of the Detroit Tigers once upon a time. 47-13 all-time in this stadium, 3.28 ERA. And it helps that the Tigers are the worst offensive team in baseball. Now, they did score 6 runs this afternoon. So my thought is, are they going to do that again? Probably not. They had scored just 88 runs total in their first 27 games, 3.3 per game, if my math is correct. That is 26 fewer runs scored than the Oakland A's. That is not good, no matter what way you slice it. So prior to yesterday's rainout, which is why they're playing a doubleheader today, the Tigers had scored more than 4 runs just once in their last 10 games. So what they did this afternoon, certainly an anomaly. Scherzer, before he was suspended, Back-to-back outings, he allowed no runs, and those were against the Dodgers and Padres. Certainly two better lineups than what he faces today, and he, most importantly of all, the Mets won those games. This is just the third time this season, gang, that the Mets are road favorites of -175 or higher. They have won the previous two against the aforementioned A's. One of those was a 17-6 win. Non-division favorites, 200 or -200 or higher, 37-14 this season in MLB. I'm expecting a multi-run victory from the road team here in Game 2. Michael Lorenzen is not good at all. 7.07 ERA, his three previous starts. He pitched well in one of them, but the last time out, he gave up 5 runs in 5 innings. His only previous home start, he was even worse, 6 runs in 4 innings. The New York Mets, -1.5, which I think pretty cheap, -125 is the play in Game 2 of this doubleheader on Wednesday.
Well,
Good
Brian,
stuff from Bryan Power. Go ahead,
Nice,
Go ahead, Trick.
I just wanted to say that, like, you got a dream scenario based on how the first game played out, because the Tigers burned through like multiple high leverage relief guys, needed their closer to come in. I think it was Best that pitched like 2 1/3. Like he's definitely not throwing tonight. So couldn't have asked for a better result in Game 1 if you like the Mets in Game 2. The absolute perfect result to come back with the Mets.
And got to love that comment from Big Dog in the chat box that says, I don't watch baseball, but you guys have cashed me, so I only bet it when you guys tell us to. That's great. That's outstanding. Great reason to watch the Hustle Show podcast here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Adam Trigger, I know somebody on Twitter has gotten into your craw a little bit about math, which is difficult for some and not so difficult for others. But I will allow you to explain.
Math is really hard.
Yeah. No, it's actually no. The guy, the gentleman makes a great point. So, Robert Baccalari Jr. on Twitter, he basically said, pointed out, I played Tigers +1.5 on the run line earlier. And by the way, this is going to be instead of doing a best bet, if I was going to give a best bet, it would be the Mariners, which I broke down earlier in the show. I have another play up at Wager Talk. So rather than talk about a game I don't really have an opinion on, I'd rather just talk about general betting strategy and see if you guys have any opinion on it. And I'll answer his question in the process. So he's essentially saying you're playing +1.5, but there's been, people have done the math and have said that it's not profitable to play +1.5. And I said I would make a counter argument, and then I think it's great if you guys chime in too, because I do think there's a couple of viewpoints on this, or different viewpoints. So I'll just give you my viewpoint. I'm not saying it's right or wrong by any means, and you may well be able to find some math that maybe proves me wrong, and I'm fine with that, because first off, I've never really been a math handicapper, and what I mean by that is the old school way to handicap was to make your own number, make a number, and if your number was off from the house's number, you made a bet. And a lot of people still do that, and I still do that to an extent, because I think everyone does that to an extent. However, for me, I'll basically give you the formula I look for when I'm picking a game. One, I do try to have a number at least in my head. I may not necessarily have a number made, but I'll have an idea of what I think it should be. Two, I'm looking to be as contrarian as possible, just because typically contrarian is going to mean you are playing against the way the books have lines shaded. Okay, when I mean shaded, I mean a lot of people like to bet overs in baseball. The overs early this season started cashing like crazy, so the books are going to shade the number to the over. So where's the value going to be? It's probably going to be to the under, okay? And then the third component is I just trust my sources, my information that have taken, close to 2 decades to build up, that I kind of know where the respected money is. I tend to know before, at least it's somewhat known. And I think so. In the baseball example, I'll give you Tigers this afternoon. I knew the Tigers had some respected money behind them. And so then I'll look and say, you know what? In this case, at this price, we'll call it -115, -120. I prefer to have the +1.5, because I have found that when you're betting on quote unquote bad teams, bad teams find a way to lose a 1-run game. I cashed over the weekend with the A's. They led the whole game. They end up losing 3-2. I have the +1.5. My bet's a winner. Now, could it come out long term that like a lot of my underdogs end up winning outright and I leave a couple units on the table? I'm sure it could. There's also going to be like, variance based on like what games I'm picking, but I'm very selective handicapper. I don't bet. I mean, I might have 1 or 2 baseball bets a day. So I feel like my edge, and the reason I'm okay with taking the +1.5 run line is because when I do it, my info is so good that I'm just like, I'm giving myself a chance to win I'm giving myself a much better chance to win the bet. And I think the juice is offset by my info being that good. Now, someone could say you're out of your mind, but go look at my baseball numbers last year. And honestly, a lot of those bets fell. I lost a handful of those games by 1 run. So I actually, if I go back to last year, I bet my numbers are worse if I'm playing money lines in those situations. Without question, this year, first, right out of the gate, I took back-to-back +1.5 losses with the Royals in games that finished 2-0, right? Like, of course, the Tigers find a way to win today, so I leave whatever the money line was on the table. So it might even out, but for again, it might be a preference thing. But for me, I have found that the +1.5, and I try not to go like I used to say -130 juice. I really don't even like going over like -120 at this point. -125. I think that's where you kill yourself with the run line bets. If you start coming out firing -140 on a run line, you're going to lose long term. But if you can keep that juice down in the -105 to -120 range and be very selective when you do it, I think there's some merit to the +1.5. And that's just my opinion. Again, someone could get the math out and, be like, you left 2.4 units on the table, and you might be right. It probably isn't going to change my mind. It's just, again, a lot of different ways to skin the cat in this business, right? Like, but if you net winner, like that's just it is what it is. Like that's just my opinion, and I'll see what you guys have to say about that. Is that not a saying anymore? Is that not a saying?
No, I don't know. It's been a while since I heard someone say "skin the cat." Yeah.
I thought that was. Is that like a dated saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2023, Trig. Everyone's offended by something, so we shouldn't be skinning anything right now. Let's see the
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm undefeated taking the +1.5 this year. 1-0, so the numbers speak for themselves. There you go.
Did your game land? Did your game land one though?
No, it didn't. They did. It was the Pirates early in the season, and they absolutely annihilated the Red Sox. And I spent the last 6 innings saying, why didn't I take them on the money line? But no, to your point, I agree. I think there absolutely is value in +1.5.
It's the best bet to make when betting baseball. By far and away, it's the best bet to make.
Zinno, this is what we were talking about the other day randomly, just like is the books have gotten much more sharp to this. So it's to this gentleman's point, it's getting harder and harder to do. Like, and I'll give the example from last night, but I can thank, then I will thank the books for doing this because they saved me some money. So last night, Garrett Cole is at home against the Guardians. This is Garrett Cole, who's, he's had like his ERA is like 1. He's been as dominant as you can find, and he's at home against the Guardians with a rookie on the mound. Now, granted, I think the consensus on Bybee on the Guardians is that he's pretty good. But 5 years ago, you would have probably that line would have come up. Cole would have probably been like -210, and you probably would have been able to get the Guardians +1.5 on the road at like -105, -110. And that would have been what I would consider to be a very sharp bet because, as you know, if you're getting the road team with the +1.5, you're getting an extra at bat. So what I mean by the extra at bat is the only way that the home team's batting in the 9th inning is if they're tied or trailing. In which case, you would take that if you have +1.5. I would have made that line Guardians +1.5 yesterday on the road something like -145, -150. The books are now just opening it at that because they sharp bettors have hit them on those for years. And now the books are saying, you know what, we're not going to wait to get hit on that. We're just going to come out and say, okay, you want to take Garrett Cole at -170, go for it because you might see some value there, but like we'll take the 30-cent hit on the money line bet because we're still going to make you lay like minus 170, which we know that a lot of people don't want to do, and we're not going to get pounded by sharp money on the dog at a good price and the run line because like the books have gotten beat on that in the past. So it's getting harder and harder to do. You almost have to have a lot of contrarian, like there almost has to be a really good contrarian spot to even find value to do it anymore. But that's just kind of my opinion. I hope I answered that gentleman's question.
No, that's good stuff, Trig. I mean, and it's certainly up for conversation. I mean, BP and I were talking earlier, just a reference to basketball, about some of the markets that, as sports betting has become legalized and there are more and more markets out there, it's harder to keep numbers tighter in each and every market. And so I think there's some of that factor into it as well. When the numbers aren't as tight, they can move the juice a little bit more in their favor to either sway bettors in one direction or another. I mean, that's, or at least steer them away from one bet more than another, understanding that the sharp folks are going to look at juice as much as they are the number and the team and everything else. So I think it's a valid point across the board. So in all that, did you have a best bet, or were we going with Mariners tonight? Is that, is that it?
That was the best bet analysis, that whole thing. Wow.
I just listen, I said rather than talk about a game that I don't have much of an opinion on, I wanted to talk about that. I will use Mariners money line as my best bet because that is the only other thing I would bet tonight other than, what's up on my page at Wager Talk. So if you're so inclined, go over to Wager Talk. But Mariners minus 170 is a great bet. So that will be my best bet for the show.
Yeah. Trig's best bet is his own analysis of betting. So there is that. If you just sit through all that and digest it all. All right, before we get to final thoughts, I want to remind you guys that the Hustle Show broadcast is brought to you by Viva Tequila Seltzer, refreshing and drinkable hard seltzer, 88 calories, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, 4.5 ABV. It's the perfect drink for your post-game celebrations, as it was created with the active lifestyle in mind. We flavored our tequila seltzer because flavor is the spice of life, and we like our drinks with a kick, just like we like to live our lives. Our flavors are paired perfectly with our artisanal Blanco tequila for a subtle and refreshing drink. Our belief: live long, live well, live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. You can purchase right now on the website, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Use code HUSTLE20 for 20% off to deliver right to your house. Send some to a friend, send some to a loved one, send some to Adam Trigger for giving you all the best betting advice out there. HUSTLE20 is the code on vivatequilaseltzer.com. Final thoughts before we get out of here, guys. I'll add one more little thing that I'd like to draw attention to everybody. I've played this several times, and I'll continue to play it. It was a play tonight for myself as well. Zach Greinke at home, no run first inning. I hope I don't mush this, but he hasn't been scored upon in the first inning this year at home, and he was only scored on once last year in all of his home starts in the first inning. So the Royals offense stinks, has stunk. You don't have to worry about them scoring. Quick bullet to the back of the head at about 7:45 Eastern tonight. We'll know if I am a mush and it killed it, or I'm a happy camper. So,
Mark,
always
hope it doesn't get that ugly, buddy.
So I don't know if you want to pull. We had a question about a no run in first inning in a different game. I don't know if any of you had an opinion on it, but someone asked about Marlins Braves. But I will say that last night, my best bet, like my 4% play, was the under in Royals Orioles, and there was 100 runs. It was never close. I lost that one. I didn't come back with it tonight, and I can just about guarantee, because I didn't come back with it, that game will go under. So hopefully it at least the first inning goes under for your sake. I'll be rooting for it.
That's again, and if you guys don't, the Nerfy market is very tough. And you have to, that's one of those things, Trig, where you talk about juice. Like, you can't get into the 140 range with Nerfies because there's just so much variance. And the only way to lose a Nerfie, the only proper way to lose a Nerfie is a solo home run. That's it. Because it's almost, when you think about it in reality, it's like a random occurrence. It might be gone in one ballpark, but not another. It could just be, a wind-aided thing. Or, I mean, I'd rather that happen if I'm going to lose it than a guy walk a guy. You have a throwing error that sends a guy to third. All the bad news bears stuff that just makes you want to just slam your head into a wall. So let's just hope the trend continues with Zach Greinke at the Nerfies at home. So any other final thoughts? Otherwise, we will wrap it up and get everybody out of here.
Yeah, Zinno,
Does
if any listener is in the Boston area, my brother, the owner of Viva Tequila Seltzer, is doing an event at the Lawn on D on Friday in South Boston. Come on by. Myself, a bunch of my buddies from 98.5, the Sports Hub, will be down there, and be some free Vivas, and they're going to be showing the Celtics game as well on a projector. So I wanted to make sure we invite everybody that's listening in the Boston area.
Have all those 98.5 guys done? Are they done with the Bruins yet? I mean, I see all their Twitter accounts because I follow them all. Oh man, that was some salty people the next day. Swamp Scott was very swampy.
Yeah, a lot of people are not over it yet. I'm trying to forget about it and just move on, and hopefully the Celtics are able to turn things around tonight.
I had Bruins futures taken. So.
I want to know, CT, as an ex hockey player, was the puck hitting the knob like insane bad luck? Because that's what happened. I mean, that's what I saw.
Yeah. I mean that's like 1 out of 100 times that will happen, right? I mean, yeah, complete bad luck. But the fact that you can't hold on with 58 seconds left and you're winning at home. I mean, Panthers played great, and we saw them play great again last night. So they deserve the win.
That's Drew Martin's Florida Panthers, by the way.
There you go.
That's right.
Drew Martin.
That's right.
Go to my Twitter and check the video. Drew Martin bets. He was so happy. We were doing a show together, and he was so happy that the Panthers had won. And if you didn't see it, I'll just encapsulate it for you. Drew Martin is like, yes, go Cats. They're moving on. I'm so excited. I'm going to go to a game. And then he deadpans it and goes, who are they playing? Which is the perfect South Florida quote. He had no idea who they were playing. But I'm going to go show up to the playoffs because I'm in South Florida, and it's something to do. So there is that. But CT, real quick, I watched the end of that game. Both times, the goal that tied it and the goal in overtime, you had way too many Bruins defenders standing in the middle of the ice with their thumb up their ass, not out on the guys on the wings. You can't it's the same premise for those who don't watch hockey. You leave a winger alone with a clear shot at the net. That's like grooving a fastball to any major league hitter. It's just not a good plan, because more often than not, most of them are going to hit it. That's what I saw in both those guys. They had way too many guys standing in the middle of the ice, in the center of the ice, not closing out on guys on the wings until the puck went that way, and it cost them twice.
Yeah, it did. And Zinno, I totally agree with that. And they were also gassed. I mean, you could just tell in game 6 and 7, right from the puck drop. I mean, they had nothing left. Look at Charlie McAvoy. He was hobbled over every single shift, and Montgomery still kept on throwing him out on the ice because, he's their best defender. But is he going to be your best D-man at about 30-40%? I mean, he couldn't give anything, and he was out on the ice when that goal was scored. So tip to the cap to the Panthers, man. They deserve the win, and what a grind. Coming back from 3-3 down 3-1 and then winning game 7 on the road. Really tough to do in hockey too. So we'll see what happens here in the next couple of series.
I don't watch hockey, but out of principle, I think I'm going to bet the Leafs to win the series right now.
Yeah. Well, I also don't watch it. I also don't watch hockey, but playing defense with your thumb up your ass sounds like a really bad idea. I would not advise that. If I was the coach, man, if that was the situation, they definitely deserve to lose, man. Yeah, man, you got to have 2 hands on the stick, right? Trig mentioned something about a no-run first inning in Marlins Braves. I don't like that actually at all. I would not bet the no-run first inning, the Durfee.
Not with the Braves.
Brian, wait.
When you talk about the Braves, hold on. When you talk about the solo home run, that's the top of the lineup with Acuna, Olsen, and Riley. No, don't. That's a bad lineup to get a Nerfy against unless you get an elite pitcher.
What? Why are we not just betting yes run first inning? Why does I always thought this market was very random, so I don't really pay attention to it. But if the no's are juiced, at what point do you just start betting yes and trying to take your chances with a good yes run first inning?
Yeah, and Miami's order 1 through 9 is obviously not great, but the top of the order is not bad. I think the top 3 or 4 guys are hitting close to 300 or around 300. So yeah,
Arise is like that trade for Arise is. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say to your point about the Nerfies. I mean, the sort of variance in it, which is why I say you got to lock into a juice price. Like, I don't tip into the 130 range almost ever unless it's strictly matchup dependent for a certain reason. You've got to lock into tight numbers juice wise because it is a volatile market and there is a lot of variance in it. Some of it is luck more than anything else. If you're doing it right, you can make money long term off of certain teams because certain teams just don't have good lineups, period. They don't score. The Tigers don't score. The Royals don't score. The Reds have a soft lineup. Like, these are teams that you can, the A's now as well. These are teams that you can fade because they're likely, what you're really only focusing on is 3 outs of that. And if I get the right starter going up against a team like the A's, the Royals, the Tigers, whoever, who have bad offenses, then that matchup kind of cuts some of that variance in half.
I would listen if I was playing these now, because now I'm thinking about it. I would try to play yes run first inning.
Yes,
on the teams that are leading the league in stolen bases. That's where I would look. I would look for the top. Let's say the top 5 teams
Arizona
in stolen bases.
Arizona.
I bet yes run first inning because you got to think if they get a guy on in the first, even if they get to 2 outs, they're probably going to try to steal that base. And then if you have a guy on second, you're a base hit away from cashing your ticket. That would be that's my like quick formula.
I cannot wait for tomorrow morning the first text from Trigger in the group chat. So and so Yurfie, yes, so and so Yurfie plus 105. Can't wait. It's gonna happen. It's exactly what's gonna happen. The text we're gonna get tomorrow is gonna be Trig's first Yurfie. All right, again,
I'm gonna go look for one now, Mark.
Buy Viva Tequila Seltzer, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. For CT Bets, Chris Thurston, Bryan Power, Adam Trigger, Mark Zinno here filling in for Drew Martin on the Hustle Show podcast. Smash that like button on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Thanks for all the comments. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you next week.